If you want a gimbal for your mirrorless or DSLR camera, that tends to be a pretty steep investment. But at $299, the Feiyu AK2000 really isn't. Can it still deliver smooth footage and a good user experience, especially when compared to other options like the Ronin S? Hey, I'm Brian and this is my review of the Feiyu AK2000. The AK2000 comes in a nice locking hardshell styrofoam case to protect it during travel. This is pretty standard for products like this, but at this price it's nonetheless good to see that they didn't skimp on this. It makes traveling with the gimbal much easier. What I don't like about it though is that you have to move the arms into a specific position to fit it into the case. That means rebalancing every time you take it out, which, while not that big of a deal, could have been avoidable. Inside the case reside, apart from the AK2000 itself, the quick release plate, a small tripod, the batteries and charger — you unfortunately can't just charge the gimbal over USB — as well as mounting accessories like a lens support and cables to connect it to various cameras. All 4 included batteries reside in the handle under the cap on the bottom, which you can screw off. When the gimbal is properly balanced, it should last up to 12 hours with these. On the bottom is also where you screw in the tripod so you can set the gimbal down or have a longer handle for a better grip. For this reason alone, I would recommend to just keep it on there. Holding onto it is otherwise pretty easy with the rubber grip and good button positioning. The gimbal is also built almost completely out of metal, which makes it feel a lot more premium than the price would suggest. Balancing the gimbal is about as easy as it can get. I won't fully cover how to balance a gimbal in this video, as there are good tutorials for that, but basically you use the tension screws and the slidable arms to orient the camera in a way where it stays in any position you put it. This is best to ensure that the motors don't have to work as hard and don't consume a lot of power. The sides of the arms are smooth, meaning that micro adjustments are no problem, and the quick release plate also doesn't have any limits to slide forward and back, making it much easier to quickly balance various camera setups. The plate is a standard Manfrotto size, but I would have liked one with a clasp so you could change batteries without rebalancing. Balancing an A6300 or a 7 series camera from Sony was done in no time, but bear in mind that heavier camera setups may be more of a stretch, especially given that the AK2000 only carries up to 2.8 kilograms. I also found that accessories that make your camera top heavy are better placed on the 1/4-inch thread right on the gimbal instead. That also gives you more flexibility when it comes to movement. Speaking of movement, the arms never interfere with each other and the gimbal supports all sorts of modes that one would also find on other options. When you turn it on, it first goes into horizontal follow mode, which only tracks pan movements. A click of the mode button puts it into tilt follow mode, where it also tracks up and down movements, and another click of the same button makes it also follow rolling motions, with AF probably meaning all follow. The last and third click of that mode button locks the gimbal in its current orientation, which is useful before another click goes back to tilt follow. Apart from this button, the screen also shows battery, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth states, as well as allowing you to adjust what the dial on the side does, but more to that in a bit. You can lock the screen to prevent accidental touches with the button on the right. Swiping to the right brings you to a screen where you can adjust camera settings if you have your camera connected over Wi-Fi or one of the included cables. But I don't really find this that useful. You can use the shutter and record buttons though in order to not have to reach up to your camera, as long as that camera supports that. The record button, for example, didn't work on my A6300. A swipe to the left of the screen brings you to all the various settings like motor strength and speed, where you can put it into active mode for really quick movements. Here's also where you find the automatic time-lapse feature that moves the gimbal between 2 set points in a certain amount of time. But to be honest, I would rather set up these things in the well-made smartphone app, which is much quicker and easier. It connects fast over Bluetooth, offers you responsive remote control, as well as a better interface to change settings and upgrade the software. Here you can also change what the trigger button does, that normally puts it into lock mode with a single click and recenters the gimbal with a double click, which I find myself using a lot. Triple clicking the power button rotates the gimbal to selfie mode, by the way. Lastly, the dial on the side. You can either use it to make fine adjustments to the axes between which you can switch on the touchscreen, or when connected to a camera you can use it as a zoom or follow focus dial. Now I don't really see the point of a follow focus if it doesn't support manual focus lenses, which this one doesn't, but the zoom capability is useful for some nice vertigo shots. I think that pretty much covers all the technical stuff, so how does it perform? The shots I got with the AK2000 were really smooth, without any noticeable jitter, but it isn't quite on the level of the Ronin S in this regard. You can use the gimbal in underslung or flashlight mode without any issues to get creative with your shots. Overall, I'm pretty impressed at the feature set, build quality, and included accessories for the price. And most importantly, the footage is very smooth, even if it's not quite on the level of the Ronin S. What I would have liked to see are better controls for cameras, even if that is also a limitation of the cameras themselves. And sometimes the gimbal starts to move uncontrollably, though you can counteract this by turning the motor strength down to be more in line with your camera's weight. And even the twice as expensive Ronin S does have these problems sometimes. So overall, I would recommend the AK2000. It's obvious that they've learned from their previous efforts while making the price even more attractive. And as a bonus, in addition to being cheaper than the Ronin S, it's also much lighter. If you enjoyed this video, you know which buttons to press, and don't forget to press that follow button on Twitter. I'm Brian, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.